The final type of assessments that need to be developed before beginning the journey toward your goal are what you might think of as the mile markers along the road. How will you know how far you have gone? How will you know how far you have left to go before you reach this goal that you've developed? So you can see that we're nearing the end of the backwards planning process. We have already reverse engineered all the big moments, and now we need to reverse engineer some of the smaller moments so that we know exactly how to begin. We don't know how to begin yet. So first we need to come up with our formative assessments. This can be a pretty easy thought process. You can be really creative with it as well. Formative assessments are activities. They are things we do in the class together. They should not be tests. Tests are not an effective way of instructing people or increasing their proficiency. They are activities, games, mini presentations, discussions, exchanges, gallery walks, any kind of activity. You can Google lots and lots and lots of ideas if you want to shake it up. Any kind of activity that is going to take place where students are going to be able to show their ability to do one or maybe two of the objectives. We just said that at the end, at the summative assessment, they're going to do all the objectives. They're going to show all the objectives all at once. So we're getting ready for that. But we need to do smaller assessments along the path because we need to know whether we are moving too fast, which will mean that we will get to the end and they actually won't be able to do a good job because they weren't ready and everybody will flop and it will be kind of terrible. Or we are perhaps, and this is very rare, moving too slow. They really know how to do this already, and we're just re-instructing them on something that they get it. They can do it. So a formative assessment is an opportunity for them to do it in the form of an activity, should be relatively interesting, low stress, part of our normal routine. And they actually get to show us one or maybe two skills that they have, and we get to see. Very important. We will be backing off. We will not be helping, or we will be helping to a very minimum. And we will be trying to see in the course of this activity, can they demonstrate this skill without my help? If they can demonstrate the skill, the objective, without my help, they're ready to move on to something new. If I pull back, we do the activity, and they are really struggling and really needing help to demonstrate this skill, then they need more practice, more demonstrations, more input, more chances to strengthen this skill before they're ready to move on to the next level of complexity. We do not want to move students to the final assessment, the summative assessment, without knowing that they are pretty ready to do it. And so we've broken that down into formative assessments, activities that align to each of our objectives. Some interesting activity, some relevant activity that they would do that would allow us to step back and see, can they demonstrate the skill? Can they do what we said they would do? Or are they still reliant on our help? Do they need more practice and more instruction? Now, something to consider is that whatever activity is used for the formative assessment cannot be identical to the activity that's being used for the summative assessment. Not even if it's just a part of it. It cannot be identical. Why? Because if I already did it, then there's no meaning in me doing it again. And this is supposed to be meaningful. So it needs to be not the exact same activity, but something that's similar enough that it uses the same skill. So for example, if they are designing a fashion line and they're putting on a fashion show and talks about their fashion line as their summative assessment, I cannot have them get up and give a talk about their fashion line at 4 or 5 times throughout the unit because they will get sick of doing so. It's already done. What I need to do is break that down into its component parts. For example, one formative assessment activity could be get up and give a review of a piece of designer clothing that is out on the runways right now. Give your opinion about it, describe it, present it to a partner, to a group, and get their feedback. It's going to use a lot of the same skills, the knowledge, content objectives, and the language objectives that are used in the final. There's going to be a lot of overlap, but it is a different activity. And therefore, by being a slightly different activity, it is also good practice for the summative assessment. It is also good practice for the final product. But it is not itself the final product, because then redoing it would be meaningless. So this is a smaller, easier, more contained activity that should hopefully be interesting and entertaining to do as part of our daily routine, that allows them to demonstrate for me how far along they are on one or two of our skills. That means I'm going to need a good number of formative assessments. I'm going to need at least one formative assessment that is going to occur for each objective. So what you write into this box is what is going to occur. Each student makes a critical review presentation about an outfit that's on the runways. That's an example of you describing to me what's going to happen. Maybe each student adjusts a garment to another size using their same design. That's one skill that they're going to demonstrate. Okay, that's interesting. That is a scenario that's going to happen. It's an assessment. So you're describing the scenarios that are going to happen, the activities that are going to be done, and they're going to be a chance for you to step back. You're not going to let students fall flat on their face. I mean, if they can't do it, you'll go in and help them, and it'll just turn into a practice. But if they can't do it, that is very important information for you. So you will be stepping back, you will be withdrawing a lot of your help, and you will be watching to see if without help, they can do that skill. You may scaffold the parts of the task that are not related to that skill, but you will be checking how far along they are, how confident and independent they are in that language or content skill, and whether you're ready to move on to the next most complicated skill, or whether it's more about reintroducing some of the key things that they need to practice in a new and more interesting way, and giving them more chances to practice before moving on, because they are going to need that skill later in multiple ways, including at the summative assessment. So brainstorm formative assessments, at least one per objective that you came up with. And then as you work your way down, you can brainstorm the lessons that would lead up to that, the little activities that are not quite that complex, not quite that demanding, that would be needed to prepare for that formative assessment. So we said, this is a summative assessment. What would be needed to prepare for that? Well, a reflection and improvement opportunity. What would be needed to prepare for that? Well, these formative assessments, so that we could see that the skills are in place. Well, what would be needed to prepare for that? And now you are doing a loose, unstructured brainstorm of what different activities could be done. You're saving any links or any materials that you know are going to come in handy. And you're brainstorming what phrases are really going to need to be used, therefore learned, in the language they're doing this in. You're actually brainstorming all that out. So everything below here is just a free brainstorm. And there will be a next step where we will develop a calendar from that. But here, just complete the brainstorm, everything you have in your mind of what kind of lessons would need to go on to prepare them for all those formative assessments, which prepares them for the reflection and improvement opportunity, which prepares them for the summative assessment, where they are evaluated and they present their public product to the public, to whatever portion of the world. List your formative assessments and all of your brainstormed lessons below in no particular order, because it's the next phase where we will actually put them into order very carefully. And congratulations, you've now sketched out an entire project-based language immersion, a live unit.